It is indeed an honor to stand before you today, though these lights are very bright, so I can only see about a third of you. I'm glad to be here. I think I have something important to say. My dear friend Salam invited me, and I have a funny story to tell just before I get started. So Salam sends an email to me a couple of weeks ago to remind me of this occasion, this fantastic event. And he says, hey, we got, celebrities, we got some congressmen, some senators, we've got a schedule, we got to keep it tight. You got 5 minutes. So I thought, okay, 5 minutes. So to me, in my mind, what that tells me is I need to follow the 5 B's of public speaking. The 5 B's of public speaking. Be brief, brother. Be brief. So I'm here to talk to you tonight about a topic that has trended upward here recently, and it's something that we can all be a part of. We all need to be conscious of this. We need to be aware so that we can protect ourselves. Hate crime. I'm going to define hate crime for you so you know what it is the FBI looks at when we're investigating these things. When we come into the community and we investigate. Hate crime is a traditional offense, a traditional criminal offense like murder, arson, or vandalism, with the added element of bias. Congress has defined a hate crime as a crime against a person or property motivated by bias toward race, religion, ethnicity, disability, or sexual orientation. The FBI's jurisdiction to investigate hate crime is primarily predicated on 4 federal statutes, which generally require 3 circumstances: the use of force or the threat of the use of force, or conspiracy to use force, or conspiracy and the threat to use force. Secondly, targeting victims because of race, color, religion, or national origin. And thirdly, additional motives to injure, intimidate, or interfere with some specific federally protected activity or right. So I just armed you with a definition of hate crime so that, God forbid, if you encounter instances of this kind of crime, or you think you've encountered instances of this kind of crime, you now know that you can report it. You now know what to report. You can report it to your local police department, you can report it to the FBI, you can report it to the leadership in your Islamic center. But the bottom line is that you have to act. I'm standing up here, I'm talking to you, I'm explaining to you, making you aware of what it is we need to know so that we can come out and protect you. But it requires you to act as well, right? Because we're a community. So I implore upon you to, if you see these instances of bias or hate, please report them. There is a situation here where we experience underreporting in hate crimes. So we need to get that information so that we can do our jobs. The other thing I want to talk to you about is something that happened on November 28th that had to do with a number of letters that were sent through the U.S. mail system to a number of Islamic centers here in Southern California and also across the country. And the vitriol nature of those letters, just the awful language that was contained in those letters, and the question of whether or not it was a hate crime. And there was a lot of media attention. There was a lot of interest. There were a lot of questions. There were a lot of fears, right? And what we did, the community, and Impact was a big part of that. Salam called me, and he said, hey, let's do something about this. Let's get out into the community. Let's bring our partners together. And let's make a unified message, a unified statement to stand against this type of criminal behavior, to let the community know that we are one community and that we are here together for this common fight. I use the saying, see something, say something, but also to do something, right? It's not enough for us to just see it and then maybe say something, but we got to do something. We got to call it in. We have to, make people aware of what's going on. An educated community is a safer community. So there's two things I want to add to this. One is leadership. On November 28th, as the community stood in front of the media and talked to the community about these letters, the imagery of us standing together, united, that's leadership. That's leadership. But the other thing we need to do is we need to grow that leadership into partnerships. And what do I mean by that? I mean that at a grassroots level, we need to make sure that everyone understands how unified we are. We look different. We do different things. But are we really different? I think we're more similar than we are different. We are more similar than we are different. And we showed on the 28th how unified we can be. And those partnerships were important that day. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about threats. We hear about threats all day, every day. It's in the media, it's international, it's global. We saw last Monday how a threat was called into a national hotline center in Australia that had to do with the Metro Red Line here in LA. And we saw how that threat, it was an anonymous tip, but how that threat galvanized the community. It galvanized your law enforcement agencies so that we could go do our jobs and we could protect you. But we talk about threats all the time. But I submit to you as I close, and I think I went beyond my 5 minutes. Sorry about that, Salam. But I submit to you that our greatest threat is a situation where we as a community are not unified. That's our greatest threat. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand with you tonight, building bridges, breaking barriers. Good evening.